Hi, this is Michael Kennedy from Developmentor, and welcome to my multi-part Python for the C# developer, both blog and video series. In this series, we're not going to try to learn how to program Python. We have a bunch of classes on that and online resources and so on. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the features of C# and .NET that we .NET developers hold dear. The types of features that you would say, I couldn't possibly program in some other language besides C# because it doesn't have link or for each loops or properties, or you name your favorite feature in C# that really makes it special and meaningful and useful to you. And we're going to look at each one of those features according to my list, since you guys can't give me feedback for getting started. So I made a list of my favorite features. And we're going to go point by point through those features and see how Python compares. We'll see that many times Python has features that are very comparable to what .NET has, sometimes not quite as nice, but many times actually nicer, or simpler at least. So this is just the first part of a many-part series, and what we're going to do here is just sort of get you started. So we're going to lay the foundation for that exploration, and we're going to basically do a quick language introduction as well as lay out some of the topics. So here are the topics that I'm planning on covering right now. This may evolve over time because I'm recording this video first and then I'm going to do the series, but here you can see we're going to talk about sort of IDEs, inheritance, common base types, things like for each loops, properties, lambda expressions, link, NuGet, ASP.NET, Entity Framework, JIT compilation, all these things that make C# and .NET really special, as well as some that I didn't name here in the list. And we're going to look at them individually in individual blog posts and videos accompanying those blog posts. So we won't dwell more on that, but this is sort of the plan going forward. What we want to do in this particular talk is just give you a really quick language demonstration. So I'm assuming you're a C# developer or some kind of .NET developer who doesn't have a lot of experience with Python. So what I want to do is make sure everyone has enough language comfort and knowledge to be able to understand what we do later. So we're just going to take a few minutes and do a really quick Python language demo. So let's switch over here to PyCharm. This is an IDE from the guys at JetBrains, the same people that make ReSharper. And I basically said file new project and add this empty file. So what I want to do is I just want to create a really simple program, and we're going to define a couple of methods. So let's start by defining down here at the bottom, we're going to define a main. And in Python, the way we define methods is we just say def. Every method has a return value, and they're all sort of dynamic, so we don't really have to say that there is a return value or what type it is, right? So we don't state the return value, but if we had arguments, we would pass them in here. So I'm going to call a couple of functions. First, let me say create a variable days. Now, in Python, we don't say the type of variable. We just state that there is going to be a variable, and we assign to it, and it's just assigned whatever type comes back. So I'm going to call a function here that says get days list. Oops, list, like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to loop over the days. So we're going to say for day in days. And we're going to get a report. We'll say reports declares another variable equals get random weather report. I'm going to print this out. And it's kind of like console write line. You have a lot of the same formatting constructs and everything. So the weather on curly 0 will be curly 1, period. Then we have to say format here instead of sort of as part of the print statement. So we'll say day, comma, report. Now you can see certain things are not defined, right? This method is not defined. This method is not defined. But before we get into writing that method, let's just take a real quick look at the shape of this one method we've already written. So we have our main method defined here, and instead of having curly braces, we have colons. And the colons plus the white space define the code blocks. So the fact that there's 4 spaces here and 4 spaces here mean these are all in the same Anyway, so if I came down here and let's say write this, say print hi, this is actually outside of the function because it's no longer indented. And you can see we have these nested blocks as well. So here's our for loop with two statements. We don't have curly braces. Again, we have white space and days. Now the IDE helps a lot. So when you hit enter, it keeps you right on the right line there and everything. So now let's define these methods, and we'll just sort of let the IDE generate them for us. So we're going to create this list, and I want to show you how this compares to C#. So if we were going to define a method that returned an IEnumerable or a list in C#, we would say public IEnumerable. I better do that in a comment, huh? Those are done with hashes in Python. IEnumerable of string, strong strings. Say get days list, curly curly. So you can see this is much shorter than what we have above. That's kind of nice. Let's declare a list of days. We could say there's our days. And this is actually how you declare a list in Python, basically like a list of object, more or less. And then that's how I declare days. But really we want to declare one with days of the week. And so let's say Monday. Okay, so there are all the days, and then we just need to return them. And we'll say return days. Now in C#, of course, this would just be simply return days with a semicolon. And up here, this declaration of the list, this would be let's say list of string days equals new list of string. Now, the absence of semicolons and curly braces and those sorts of things at first are very they're kind of tough to take coming from a C# background, but look at how much we write here and look at how little we write here, and we get the same functionality, a lot of the same features. It starts to grow on you, this programming language, this sort of minimalist programming language here. Okay, so here we get our days back, and we're going to loop over, but we don't have our random weather report, so let's create that function. And in order to work with this, we're going to need to import a library. So we're going to say import, whoops, I'm not going to say it there, import random. And we'll work with a random library, so we'll put that up at the top. And down here, let's say we're going to have reports. It's going to be a list. These are possible weather reports. This will be like sunny and lovely. Okay. Down here, we're going to return a random one of these. So we'll just say return reports. We can index into this, and we have to give it an index. So what we want to do is go to random and say rand int, and it takes inclusive, something between 0 and the length of reports -1 because it's inclusive. Okay, so that's going to generate an integer and index in here, import, and it'll give us one of these. Okay, so there's a little bit of squiggly if you're unfamiliar with PyCharm. It's basically just telling us that there's a style guide that we're missing. I can auto-format that. Here's a little code to help you. Now it's all fixed. Let's run this. One more thing we forgot. The main methods are not automatically called like they are in C#. In fact, you have to declare, basically have to call them at the end. And this sort of gets parsed and executed regardless of whether or not you're trying to use this as a library or as the main method. So there's this sort of convention of saying if the name of the file it's executing is main, if my current name is main, then go ahead and run this. So this is sort of a import safe way to execute our main method. So let's run that. So here you can see we ran it. The weather on Monday will be cold apparently. Tuesday it will be rainy. Wednesday rainy. Thursday it turns lovely, and then the weekend is looking good, but a little hot on Sunday. Alright, so there you have it. Here's a very simple Python program. You'll see that we can have classes and object orientation. Here we just have methods, but I just want to keep it simple because this is our quick introduction. So I hope you feel like you're ready to start learning Python and start talking about all of the C# features and comparing them to the Python features. In this first video, we just looked at sort of enough foundational stuff for you to get started in the rest of the series. So I hope you come back for more, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.